Hello, my name is Jose Fregoso. This is my Tumblr Tuesday blog for RWS 1302. And we just finished research questions and research strategies. And what I wanted to do was address those, my questions in this genre. My first question is does the United States Army practice gender diversity? And that's yes, absolutely yes. But let's not forget that up until a year ago, all the combat arms jobs were closed to women. This is something that's changing. It's changing in front of our eyes, and it's going to be very interesting for me to see how this is carried out as policy. My second question is how defined is Army gender diversity? I used defined in a different way than definition because when you look at the Army, remember we said that in an earlier blog, 450,000 soldiers and less than 110,000 are women. So that's 20%, less than 20% actually. What's the Army define as diversity? If half the population of the United States is made up of women and the other half's made up of men, then is 50-50 the right answer? Or someday is it going to be 60-40 in favor of the women? This is something we'll see and we'll research in depth. My third question is how is gender diversity interpreted in the Army? And what I mean by that is that from a human resources point of view, the basic unit in the Army is made up of 60 to 141 persons. And in those numbers, are there going to be quotas? Is a certain percentage of those employees, are they going to be required to be women versus men? Is it going to be 50-50? Is there going to be a minimum or a maximum? These are things that the Army's never managed in the human resources realm. So this could be another first for the Army, and I'm willing to bet the other services as well. My fourth question is how will gender diversity benefit the United States Army? I believe that the increase in open positions for women means that we have a wider variety and more opportunities for women to come into those jobs, which is a good thing. Culturally and socially, it's going to be challenging. As a friend of mine from Fort Bragg, North Carolina, used to say, I can't wait till a woman's in charge of the Army. And what he meant by that at that point was we had been at work at 5:30 in the morning. We accounted for all of our soldiers by 6, and at 6:30 we were doing physical fitness training, 8 o'clock eating breakfast, 12 o'clock eating lunch, and waiting for that 5 o'clock whistle to go home. 5 o'clock turned into 5:30, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. And what Sergeant Marone was driving at was that maybe that fraternity we were in liked to spend so much time together instead of going home. And he was convinced that if a woman was in charge, that would change. I tend to agree. Women want to get down to business and get to work. Number 5. How beneficial will gender diversity be to combat arms jobs? We already have what's called female engagement teams. These are called FET teams, and they're in Afghanistan. They work side by side with soldiers. When you're looking at a world where cultures, almost 1 billion people on this planet, are culturally and socially protected from men and women interacting with each other, this puts the Army at a big disadvantage. So having women in those combat zones, having women in those areas, to be able to talk to and to address their issues is a win-win for us and the populations that are in those zones. My sixth question is how does gender diversity policy affect Army morale? So one of the readings that I had, I went through the abstract, was pretty clear that women in the Army were gladdened to see restrictions lifted, not because they wanted to go there, but because if they did, they can. And that's pretty telling that they may not want to go into that job, but if they wanted to, they can. The other thing is we've already had men and women serving together in combat. We've had approximately 180 female soldiers killed in the wars since 2001, and that affects soldiers of both sexes equally. You know, that loss for their comrades. This issue here, although it doesn't sound like something you can gauge, I believe you will, because women have been in combat operations for the past 15 years, shoulder to shoulder, side by side with men. And a lot of the cultural and social dynamics that I grew up with and that were in place in 1984 no longer apply. It's an interesting time, and I'm looking forward to researching these questions and sharing my information with you. Thank you very much. God bless.